Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, if that's where you are. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Friday morning. Yes, doing another entry into the Bridge series, looking at the possible rebranding of the whole DEI apparatus, or perhaps just somebody trying to take advantage of its slow degeneration to cash in. But hey, six of one thing, half a dozen of the other. So yeah. Before I begin, I just wanted to a bit of a solemn announcement, such as it is. Our friend Irate Alex, his brother, has passed away earlier this week from complications of multiple sclerosis, amongst other things. And in memoriam and respect of that, I've put a link to the donation page for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, pardon me, donation page up in the top of the chat box. So if you could take a look at that when you have the opportunity, if you can donate to that, please do so. If you cannot, that's fine. But if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So all condolences to Irate Alex and his family. This is obviously not a very easy time for them, and I wish them all my best. That being said, sorry to start out on a somber note, but it needed to be said. Who is joining me on this Friday morning for a little bit of bridge? Anybody want to play bridge? Let's play bridge. Jaeger Pony, good morning. Molly Okami, good morning. Evil One, Scribe, so glad to catch you live. I usually take my 4 hours of sleep about now. So glad to catch you live. Well, I'm so glad you caught me live. Like a fish, you know, because that's how this works. I don't know. Anyway, nice to see Evil One. Noah Sencio, good morning. Mike Savage, Blarg. Kiro Soldier, good morning. Who else is here? Attorney Eris, good morning. Matthew James, good morning. Hammer, good morning. You're Ridiculous Lunatic, good morning to you. Gil Cato, Gil Cato? Gail Cato. Gil Cato. Okay, I can't help but ask. How do I correctly pronounce that? Or what would be the most dramatic way for me to pronounce that? Let me know. But good morning to everybody. So today we're, again, as I said, doing part 3 of our look at Bridge. Second version. Okay, you're gonna have to give me a phonetic structure of it because I can't remember what I said the first time. Gil Cato? Gil Cato. Gil Cato? Gil Cato. Okay. I'll try to remember. Gil Cato, good morning. Texas Attorney General Secret Agent, good morning to you. But yeah, so what is Bridge? Well, for a full breakdown of Bridge, you'll have to go back to part 1 and watch through. But in a short summary, Bridge is a self-described trade group that is in some way, shape, or form attempting to redefine DEI, but also be a gathering point for CDOs, chief diversity officers, but also introduce a brand new metric by which to measure success in DEI endeavors. That metric is called inclusion maturity. And I love this. I love that a entire metric has been created out of whole cloth by Bridge. As far as I can tell, Bridge is the point of origination for inclusion maturity. They create a problem, right? They brand a problem. It's like, oh, well, we're going to measure your inclusion maturity, and we'll tell you whether or not you're mature enough. And if you're not mature enough, we'll tell you what changes you need to make. So they've invented a problem that only they can solve. Bridge can. And how do you measure inclusion maturity? It's very abstract, very, very abstract, as you can see on the screen. But we might learn at least something of what's informing inclusion maturity today, because out of the executive committee, so far we've looked at videos from Janita Wilson from Discover, Cheryl Daiha, the CEO and founder of Bridge. And today we're going to be looking at a video from Deborah Yeh, or Deborah Yeh, not quite sure, Yeh or Yeh. Either way, she is the chief marketing officer for Sephora. And she has relatively recently had a video come out, an interview, dealing with inclusion in the retail space. And that was something that was brought up in the last video where we capped off the interview with Cheryl D.E.I, where she talked about inclusion in the retail experience. So, how do you make the retail experience more inclusive? At least at Sephora. Well, we're going to find out today from the Chief Marketing Officer, Deborah Yeh. So that's the plan for today. The video runs just a little bit over 20 minutes, so it's not going to take us too long, I don't think. And we'll be more educated on the other side of this. Let's see. Robert Pincus, good morning. Who else is here? Simon Willikins, good morning to you. And I think that's John Trioxin, good morning to you. All right, so let's get an education here on Commerce Next Marketing Summit Series, Sephora, Making Retail More Inclusive. Are you ready? I know I am. Let's proceed. Any minute now.
Our last session for today is with Sephora CMO, Deborah Yeh. Sephora has been leading the industry when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Deborah has been a vocal D.E.I champion for the entire retail industry.
Great. I love vocal champions for the entire D.E.I industry. Oh, let's see. I have any psychic predictions? Inclusion. Let's see. Okay. Here's my first psychic prediction. And I haven't watched this ahead of time, so I don't know what's going to be said. The phrase business imperative. Business imperative. I'm putting my fingers to my head. Business imperative.
We're thrilled to have her here today. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Veronica. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Uh-huh.
So Sephora has gone above and beyond to champion diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Which means they've just put themselves deeper and deeper in the hole if any legal liability issues ever come up in the future.
Can you provide an overview of your efforts and explain why D.E.I is so important to the company?
Sure, let's set it up. Diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been a priority at Sephora.
Would you say they're a business imperative?
They've been actually core to our mission since we were founded as a new kind of beauty company, right? If you think about it, it was revolutionary at the time when Sephora came to the States to, be a store that allowed consumers to browse and to explore prestige beauty freely without putting it behind a glass counter, right?
I don't know. I don't usually, frequent makeup stores. So was that revolutionary? Was it impossible in any kind of makeup store prior to that for somebody to come in and browse stuff without there being a glass counter? I don't know. Someone in the chat, if you know more about how makeup stores have operated in the last, 30 years or something, I'd be curious to know, I suppose. Jen T. Maxey, good morning. 6 minutes in, you already have a fooler's smile. Is Duper's delight? Is that the other phrase for it? And those ain't real, dude. Good morning. Dr. Functional. Good morning. Vader 35. Good morning. Another ambush stream. Well, a little bit of an ambush. I gave warning. I gave warning at last night's TED Excellence, and I gave at least an hour and a half or so warning on this one. But more or less.
And it's always been one of our HR values as well. Our informal and formal celebrations honor beauty advisors who demonstrate respect for all and a passion for serving our clients.
Isn't that just called good customer service?
But as an organization, we haven't necessarily been talking about these beliefs publicly. So that
why not? But okay, now you are, and
that changed in 2019 when we started a campaign called We Belong to Something Beautiful, which was meant as an external, ongoing articulation of our values and a commitment to the industry, to our employees, to our clients, that we would never stop working to make beauty a place where everyone felt like they belong.
So basically, you want to have as broad a customer base as possible through your PR and marketing. Well, gosh, what a revolutionary idea.
A lot has transpired in our country since then.
George Floyd.
And DE&I has become front and center. But we're super proud to have continued our commitment to this cause with efforts across every area of our business, from the store experience to marketing and merchandising and to our training and recruitment efforts.
Oh, training and recruitment efforts, you say? I hope she goes into detail on those, because of all the things that you could talk about as a private business, it's those that get you in the most hot water when it comes to discrimination.
That's awesome. And we'll kind of dig into each of those pillars as we have this conversation.
Yay.
So I want to start with kind of the broader retail community, because you just recently announced this large initiative to combat racial bias in stores. Tell us about that initiative.
Combat racial bias in stores. Yeah, I think Cheryl Daiha alluded to this in her interview. She didn't give any details, of course, but that's why I wanted to follow up with this interview with the Sephora CMO. Yeah. So how do you combat racial bias in stores? And my understanding of what Cheryl Daiha said in her interview, it implied to me, and I don't know what our speaker is going to say, but it implied to me that you would stock your shelves with products that wouldn't necessarily sell, but at least visibly cater to demographics on a quote unquote inclusive basis, just to show how progressive you are. So willing to market and or attempt to sell products that will not bring you in any profits just for the sake of window dressing. That's how I took what Cheryl Daiha said, but let's see what our CMO has to say.
Yeah, just a little bit ambitious, right?
Just a little bit.
Well, we know that racism unfortunately affects nearly every institution in society.
Oh, okay. So Deborah Yeh is a anti-racist, because anti-racism teaches that racism is a universal constant that finds itself into every aspect of society, life, business, and so on. Okay.
And retail is not immune. So one of the things that we encountered a couple of years ago was this interesting poll from Gallup that reported that Black Americans were more likely to experience unfair treatment at a retail establishment than in their dealings with the police.
Really? I'd love to know how they measured that.
So if you're like me, this statistic is like totally disheartening.
It is disheartening if it's true. Sounds a bit wonky to me, but okay.
But of course, we're retailers, right? We are constantly thinking about how to improve the customer experience. And here was an area that clearly needed dramatic improvement across the industry.
Okay, so how did you gear your marketing and your retail experience towards a specific skin color?
So guided by our commitment to create a more inclusive retail experience, we actually set out to better understand and address the issue.
Okay.
We recently commissioned and just announced a first of its kind study on the state of racially biased treatment in U.S. retail.
That sounds like a study that had a foregone conclusion that you were aiming for. But okay, I mean, I don't know the details. Killer Turnus, 2 times in 2 days. Oh my gosh, wow, what a week. I'm catching 2 streams. What's this one about? Well, this is the 3rd part in a series I'm doing on a organization, trade group, something or other rebranding of D.E.I called Bridge. And in the previous 2 parts, I've looked at videos that concern individuals who are members of the executive committee of this organization. And so this is part 3, where I'm taking a look at another member of the executive committee of Bridge, Deborah Yeh from Sephora, and finding out her philosophy on the whole DEI thing as might contribute to the philosophy behind Bridge. So that's the rundown. Well, thank you, Killer Turnus. Appreciate the generosity and hope you're having a good day. Hope you enjoy the show.
And we found a lot of really interesting things. But first and foremost, that racial bias at retail is prevalent.
In what way? How does racial bias manifest itself in retail?
With 2 out of 3 shoppers saying that they've experienced poor treatment due to their race or ethnicity.
They say they've experienced poor treatment due to their race or ethnicity. I may be slightly inebriated, or I might just be stumbling over my words. Either way, whatever excuse makes the most sense to you. So it was self-reporting on I was mistreated. So it's all unverifiable subjective anecdotes. Okay.
Our research team, led by 2 academic experts, Dr. Cassie Pittman-Clater and Dr. David Crockett, actually helped provide to us a conceptual map. You know, we think about customer journeys, and this is a customer journey that showed us how this happens.
Are those experts by any chance specifically geared towards a particular ideology by any chance? I just asking. Oh, look who's in the chat. Look who's in the chat. Jeanette E. Hellis. Makeup is a damn universal experience. Everyone should be able to purchase and work in the industry in general. I agree. There shouldn't be any litmus test for being able to work or participate in the industry. But according to our speaker, apparently it's rampant racism in the retail experience, I guess. John Miller, thank you so much. These types will never go away, just rebrand. That's what it's looking like. DEI in different ways is in retreat and or encircling the wagons right now because of the amount of pushback they've gotten since the affirmative action decision of 2023. And certainly by the legal challenges that are only now starting to percolate into the process. So yeah, Bridge is DEI is no longer Bridge. The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is now the Division of Access and Opportunity or something. I think it's the Oklahoma State or something just changed the just gave a new coat of paint to their DEI division, changed the title of the thing, changed the job titles of the individuals involved, and didn't change anything about the actual function. Yeah, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to go for the California model to avoid any legal entanglements. The problem is at the core, it's always the same thing.
And so if the shopping experience is a road, there are some travelers who experience, unfortunately, an extra tax or an extra toll that blocks their way. And this can mean anything from their products being hidden in the ethnic aisle to being underserved or potentially even feeling watched or treated suspiciously.
Feeling watched or treated suspiciously. Okay. Well, let's take a step back. Given, if anybody's seen any videos out of, say, San Francisco or New York or Seattle in the last few years when it comes to retail theft, a heightened sense of awareness of what's going on in retail stores, especially in major cities these days, is not unfounded, regardless of what the individuals look like coming into the store. So, I mean, I go to a Target and some basic supplies are now behind locked plexiglass cages. I went with my sister about like a week ago or something to get some detergent, or at least that's one of the things I was getting while I was there. And the detergent is locked behind a plexiglass case. I had to push a button and wait 5 minutes until somebody came along with a key to unlock the cabinet so I could get just laundry detergent. Yeah, okay.
So, shoppers of color will say, yeah, we know this has been happening. This is not new news. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, our goal here was to not only measure the problem, but also start to identify tactics that we as a retail industry can go after to create an environment that serves all of our customers.
Great. Can you please specify some of the tactics you use to alleviate the pressure put on particular people of particular skin colors?
So, it was a really rich study. It identified places where we could all work to improve the experience for shoppers of color.
Like?
Some of those things, just to highlight some of those findings, include offering timely assistance to people looking for help.
Based on their skin color, or just based on the fact that they're a customer who entered the store and you want to sell a product?
Freely sharing information about offers and new products.
What does that have to do with skin color?
Understanding the unique needs of our shoppers of color.
Okay, what is a unique need of a shopper of color?
And then having employees that look like our whole community and can communicate in all the languages that are necessary.
Oh, okay, communicate in all the languages is a skill or ability. Look like... So you're hiring employees on the basis of their aesthetic appearance, skin color wise, I'm assuming. Okay.
So, lots of learnings here. We at Sephora are using, of course, all of these findings to guide a pretty robust action plan on our part.
Guide or justify?
But we are also hoping that other retailers will be intrigued by these results and really invest in learning more to come up with an action plan that's relevant to them as well.
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's so much more than just hiring the right people. It's about having the right products, making them visible, making sure everyone is seen and heard. It seems like
basic retail strategy if you think about it too long.
Quite an ambitious plan.
It is, I mean, I think that like you
is it really waiting on customers looking for help and giving information on products? Wow, that's so innovative. I worked at a watch store for a few years after college. Boy, I wish we'd thought of that. What are you talking about?
Quite an ambitious plan.
Ambitious.
It is, I mean, I think that like you apply to all of the learnings that you get in a good kind of retail background to like look at the customer experience in a 360-degree manner.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what this does is highlight many different places in the journey where a retailer could dive in and really start to improve the experience for their consumers.
Yeah, talking to your customer, advertising your products, and presenting yourself in a professional, friendly, and welcoming manner. I know. I mean, for all I know, all of that has completely died by the wayside in retail in the last 10, 20 years because of Gen Z or something. But okay, yeah, real ambitious.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
And Sephora was one of the first retailers to take the 15% pledge.
The 15% pledge? Oh, is that a quota I hear approaching?
I recall it was only 9 days after Aurora James posted the challenge on Instagram.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What drove the company to participate and really like take a leadership role? Because other retailers followed, but only after kind of Sephora had stood up and said, we're going to do this.
Sure. So Aurora James is an amazing contact and colleague with us at Sephora. She actually started an entire movement with just one Instagram post. It was like a Post-it note that actually said in handwriting, here is one thing you can do for us. Everyone was thinking about like what could the corporate answer to this experience that we were seeing in 2020 could be. And so,
okay, I have to pause occasionally just because I have to pause. Do for us. Who is us? Who does this lady purportedly represent when she posted this Instagram thing? And what is the 15% pledge? Please do tell me what public admission we're about to get.
Experience that we were seeing in 2020 could be. And so, she was calling it out. So we answered the calling because we recognize the opportunity to continue to live out our commitments as a company to build a more inclusive beauty community. And, beauty community is not just consumers, right? It includes the entrepreneurs and the brands.
What is the 15% pledge? I mean, if she doesn't tell us, I'm going to look it up sideways. So we'll find out one way or the other, but I'm wanting to hear from our speaker.
So, products an area in which Sephora has a unique set of skills. We don't call our brands vendors, for instance. They are our partners and our founders. And our merchant team's especially involved in like literally sometimes getting in the kitchen with aspiring founders. We call this brand incubation. So we actually knew that we had some expertise to make a difference in the kind of brands that were successfully brought to market. So
are these going to be brands led by people of color? I'm spitballing here. I have no idea what the 15% pledge is or was.
So, this was a fairly quick decision on our part to take the pledge, but I will just say that our ongoing commitment isn't actually about quickly signing new deals. We actually are diving into the full procurement process, if you will, looking at how we scout and how we vet brands, and also how we partner in the long term.
What is the 15% pledge? What are you talking about?
Just to give you an example here to start, we have always had, or actually for years now, have had an Accelerate program, which was originally founded to cultivate female founders.
Oh, okay. So you're sexist. All right.
But we actually tightened the focus of that program to focus on BIPOC founded and owned brands.
Oh, okay. So now you're racist too. Okay. All right. I figured. All right. So a racist and gender-based discriminatory program for who you will do business with. Oh, it sounds great. Yep.
And so the program is going to offer a robust curriculum, some mentorship, merchandising support, potential funding, and even introductions to the investor community. The goal here being that we want these founders to really kind of be part of a thriving ecosystem to support them.
Well, you want founders who look a particular way first and foremost, on the basis of a minimum quota. Okay.
So we're excited about this. Our applications were accepted, I believe, this fall, and we are just about to announce the initial class of founders that we'll be working with. So that's just one example. Building on all of these things, we have reviewed hundreds of brands since our original pledge.
And you've rejected many of them because the founders didn't look the part, I'm assuming.
And we are excited to be able to, by the end of this year, double our assortment of Black-owned brands.
Okay. Well, it took that a long, circuitous route to get down to the bottom of it. Okay. So not so much BIPOC, but just Black. Okay. So you have a specific race and a specific gender that you want to do business with on the basis of a percentile quota that you willfully and voluntarily committed to. Okay. As a corporation that operates within the United States. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
That's incredibly fast and ambitious. And I mean, I love what you're doing with Sephora Accelerate.
Is it amazing?
Such a great opportunity to
Is it amazing though?
help stand up some young companies that could use some extra support to bring their products to life. It's incredible.
No, not young companies. No. That's not the differential. You're burying the lead here. You're burying the lead. Black-owned businesses, not young companies. No.
And doubling is a big ambitious goal. What actions are you taking to really measure performance, and how are you? I know you guys are being very, very transparent about reporting back to the community on everything you're doing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, give us your metrics on success. How do you measure achievement in this entire endeavor?
Yeah, sure. Measurement is actually a huge part of our effort. It started with a study, right, which is in itself about measurements. And then, of course, there's measurement around accountability. So I'll talk about a couple of different things that we're doing along this line.
Okay.
I think the first thing to actually note is that one of the things that we learned with our research is that the traditional retail measures around customer satisfaction, NPS, may not be tuned in enough to really help us fully monitor what's happening in terms of inclusion in retail.
Okay, so I wonder if this is going to lead us into the whole inclusion maturity concept, or if that had been created by the time this interview was done. All right, so the old classic measurements don't fit. What are the new correct measurements?
We actually found that incidences of racial bias go unreported, which is potentially a reason why retailers aren't as actively engaged into this topic as one might expect. So
if they're unreported, then how do you know they exist?
To kind of give you a sense of how we're addressing that, we're implementing a new in-store DE&I dashboard that's going to help us provide analytics on client service and feedback to our stores on a monthly basis, as well as to measure employee training and participation and efficacy. So that's kind of one example, which reflects kind of an in-the-moment type of tracking.
I would love to know what data is fed into this dashboard and how it's being done. Like, are they making note of the skin colors of everybody that walks in the store? Like, what? I have doubts that she'll tell us more specifically how that's supposed to work, but I would love to know.
There's also a broader type of tracking that we need to do, which is to see how we are kind of building against our overall strategy as a company. So to give you an example of what we're doing there, we actually have made inclusivity a priority for every corporate employee as well.
Okay. So would you say it's a business imperative? I'm waiting. I want to hit that button, but okay. How does every corporate employee make inclusivity part of their process?
And we're evolving our employee performance reviews to include a new inclusivity-based performance metric.
How do you measure that? What is it they have to do to meet these standards? Please tell us.
This, of course, can vary from person to person depending on their scope. So
why? There's no standard?
For instance, supervisors can create more inclusive team cultures, right?
They can create more inclusive team cultures. What does that mean? And how do you... And how do you measure success?
And focus on their hiring practices. Individual contributors can get involved in any of our 11 task forces, which are implementing plans. So this gives you a little bit of a sense of how corporate is being involved.
Okay, well, you skipped over the big headline there, hiring practices. Okay, how does an inclusion model contribute to hiring practices by supervisors? I mean, given the theme that we've been given so far, anyway, my words, it wouldn't have anything to do with race, would it?
Holistically, what we're going to be doing is tracking against a very comprehensive plan. And our intent here is to publish our findings and our results biannually on our website.
Okay. I guess maybe as a follow-up, I'll have to look up and see if I can find their DEI report online.
Wow. That's amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. You know, if you've only got 3 or 4 exclamations to use, amazing, ambitious, incredible, great.
And it would imagine how it would be if the entire retail industry kind of committed to this and did the same thing. There's a lot of power in what you're doing. And
yeah, there's a lot of power, a lot of insert race here power.
The leadership that you have here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of shift gears for a second and talk about your marketing efforts, because you are the CMO of Sephora and it's a big part of what you do.
Yeah.
How has diversity, equity, and inclusion been incorporated into your marketing campaigns?
Yeah, okay, good. This is her realm of expertise. How have you fed discriminatory practices in hiring and vendors and everything else into advertising?
Sure. So, within marketing, our actions are to increase representation and promote inclusivity before shoppers even enter our stores.
So basically populating your visible ads and marketing tools with people of specific colors.
Right. It's all about consumers being able to see themselves reflected in a retailer's marketing. And while we've always aimed to create inclusive images, we also want to be purposeful about the representation in front of and behind the camera as well.
In front of and behind the camera as well. So are you talking about like actual like filmed advertisements or something, or just the photographers that take the pictures? You're hiring photographers on the basis of their race?
So we're implementing new marketing production guidelines, for instance, to ensure that creative decisions reflect and uplift our communities. For instance, if we are doing a hair campaign, we want to make sure that we're hiring a hairstylist who feels great styling textured hair. That's just one example.
Who feels great styling textured hair. Okay.
We're also just expanding the breadth of our content. I think we've spoken in the past, Veronica, about how Sephora approaches content. And one of the things that we're trying to do here is to make sure that we're meeting clients' unique needs. We are publishing how-to videos about how to find a sunscreen, for instance, that doesn't create a white cast on dark skin.
Yeah, I have to step back for a second. Find someone who's comfortable working with textured hair. Is that just, I mean, maybe it's just the cynical part of my brain, but is that just sort of dancing around the notion that you're hiring someone on the basis of their own race and or textured hair status? I don't know. I mean, it is relatively ambiguous, but okay. Tutorials on how to apply sunscreen. All right.
Or techniques like how do you do a smoky eye on an Asian monolid, right?
How do you do a smoky eye on an Asian monolid? Is it functionally any different than doing a smoky eye on a non-Asian I mean, I don't know. As a man, as a classic American red-blooded male, I don't often apply makeup to my face, actually ever. So I don't know. Ladies in the chat, if you know anything about applying a smoky eye, let us know in the comments otherwise.
We've also done things like adding more closed captioning and expanding the library of Spanish language tutorials on our YouTube channel as well as Instagram video.
Okay, well, improving accessibility to your products is fine. That's not cool. But I'm just more curious about the people you're hiring and how you're treating people otherwise on the basis of their race. That seems to be the through line through most of this. Someone's language capacity or their, hearing or visually impaired or otherwise. That's just a matter of accessibility. That's fine.
So lots of effort and content. What's super cool about having real clarity about one's values is that we've actually found a way to weave diversity, equity, and inclusion to a lot of our marketing decisions in many programs.
Would you say it's a business imperative?
So for instance, we relaunched our Beauty Insider loyalty program just this last year, and we actually added a feature where clients could donate their points. And what we've done here is we've focused on a set of charities and nonprofits that are all focused on fighting for inclusive communities. And in 6 months, this has resulted in more than $2 million worth of donations. So
I would love to know the names of these organizations and exactly what their mission statements are. I would love to know. Are we going to hear? Probably not.
It's interesting. You can kind of think about marketing, of course, as the image part of what we do, but we also want to think about marketing in terms of all of the different touch points and forms of activation that we have with our consumers.
I don't even know what most of that means, but then I'm not a marketing genius. Tier Alexander Scribe, didn't you play VTM LARP? You never played a Toreador? I did play a Toreador. I didn't play a makeup-wearing Toreador. Yeah, I tried to make characters that went counter to the stereotype of the clan, right? One character that I never got to play, I always had an idea for, was a Ventru who was like king of the bums. Like he was homeless. He was just sort of like this transient guy who used his vampire powers to create a little network of, sort of like what's his name from Oliver Twist, Artful Dodger or whatever, that kind of thing. So he always wore like nasty clothes and didn't take care of himself and everything, but still got to go to the Ventru clan meetings because, well, he's a Ventru. So yeah, no, I did play a Tory. But he wasn't your average Tory. Anyway.
It makes a lot of sense. It's so comprehensive. It sounds like from everything from your actual campaigns to your to the content you create. It really covers the whole 9 yards.
She didn't really give us any major details. You're being far too accommodating, but again, I suppose that's your job.
So I guess in terms of we talked about some of your employee efforts, and you mentioned how you have diversity kind of included in the goals of all of your employees, whether they're leaders or individual contributors. How are you recruiting to ensure that you have a diverse team, as well as kind of promoting the executives you have in-house?
Okay. All right. Credit where credit is due. Thank you to the interviewer. She asked effectively the kind of question that I would ask, given what our speaker has said previous. Now comes up, how does she answer this? How does she answer the question of how are you putting DEI into your employment and promotion practices? How does that work? Shall we get a clear answer, do you think? Let's find out.
That's right. We want to make sure that we have a field level audience or workforce that reflects our communities. And then we want to advance all of our employees to higher levels of leadership in the organization.
All of your employees, or are there any filters that you're putting on that process?
So a couple of things just to highlight here. We're going to be broadening our recruitment and career advancement processes for employees of color.
Oh, okay. So white people need not apply.
By providing new resource toolkits for hiring managers so that everyone who has hiring decision-making authority can get involved. We're also going to be expanding our existing partnerships with associations who are dedicated to the advancement of employees of color.
Right. Okay. So just elevating people in your company on the basis of their skin color. Okay.
There are a lot of best practices here, and we want to take advantage of them.
I would love to know what you consider to be best practices when it comes to racial discrimination in your employment.
Lastly, we want to identify key markets for recruiting events so that we can increase our representation.
At HBCUs.
So that's just the start on the recruiting side of things.
Uh-huh.
Later this spring, we're actually going to be rolling out some exciting new emerging talent programs to make sure that we're not just placing diversity into the organization, but we are elevating folks, giving them all of the context that they need to be successful, and ensuring that they rise up to greater levels within the organization.
None of that made any sense whatsoever.
So those are just some examples. We want to think about this just like we do with our product pipeline. There's, of course, a talent pipeline involved.
Is talent really the focus? I mean, there seems to be at least one or two other things that precede talent as a consideration.
And it's pretty important for us to make sure that we are finding and pursuing opportunities along every area of that journey.
Corporate speak, corporate speak, corporate speak, corporate speak, corporate speak, corporate. Amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay, I've waited long enough. I think I've earned it. Oh, man, I tell you what.
Really love that. Love that you're kind of looking at it from a, not only from a like making sure you're finding the right candidates, but making sure that you're also developing your employees so that they can move up. It's really kind of key.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a business 101 practice or something. You know, you're laying on far too much praise to concepts that on the surface are essentially common sense, but here's the problem. It's what lies beneath that. The motivations for those decisions are based on what again? Race, and occasionally gender. Does nothing about that concern either of you? I mean, just on the possibility of any kind of legal entanglements that might conjure up, you know, and even if, and this is the thing that always gets me, even if you're not technically violating the law in promoting this kind of thinking, does it ever bother anybody in this industry that they are, at the very least, violating the spirit behind the laws that exist to prevent this kind of thing? Any lessons from history that want to, like, you know, make themselves known in anyone's mind here?
In all to invest in all parts of this.
That's right.
So I guess as a kind of final question, we frequently see that diversity, equity, and inclusion leads to business success. We know.
We do? What we do? What do you mean we, white woman? What? Hey, are you sure about that? Okay, I mean, if you say so, we see DEI leads to business success all the time,
We frequently see that diversity, equity, and inclusion leads to business success. We know that.
We know that. It's a proven fact. That's why major companies have been cutting their DEI budgets. That's why they've been laying off their CDOs. That's why they've been changing the names of their entire departments or just getting rid of them altogether. It obviously it's just a golden goose. All you have to do is implement a DEI initiative and suddenly your profits go up. That's why DEI is everywhere and it's thriving. And the DEI consultants and the CDOs are not constantly sounding more and more desperate as time goes on.
But are there business benefits to DEI that our audience may just not be thinking about?
Oh, okay. Well, what would I be thinking about in the first place? What obvious benefits derive from a DEI program? I'm told it increases innovation. I'm told it increases retention. I'm told these things. Do they? Thank you, Matthew James. Love the psychic stinger. Yes, I'm a little fond of it now. I'm a little fond of it. I don't want to use it too much. I want to have it at least be somewhat justified. But I like that tune. That I define a good song that had good little rhythm to it for that. So I enjoy it, but I have to use it sparingly. It has to be justified. I'm surprised I haven't heard business imperative yet. That always seems to be something that comes up, and maybe this is just the one instance where it doesn't. Okay, but anyway, yes, what are the unsung benefits of a DEI initiative?
Yeah, I'm reading a lot of the same studies that you are. A lot of them do point to how organizations who are focused on DE&I are more innovative, they're more creative, they're more agile.
You wouldn't just be looking at McKinsey studies, would you? And you wouldn't be risking confirmation bias, would you?
And like, what marketer doesn't want that, right?
Right.
And certainly in beauty, which is a face-forward business, we absolutely have to get this right.
Beauty is a face-forward business. Yeah. Okay.
I believe in all of these things.
Sure.
But I've also, been in business long enough to
Mhm.
know that avoiding loss or not leaving money on the table can be very motivating for companies as well.
Uh-huh.
And our data did show that racially biased and unfair treatment ultimately costs retailers a great deal.
Okay. How much is a great deal? How did you measure that? Especially since most of the information you've mentioned so far have come from subjective anecdotes.
After experiencing unfair treatment, our study showed that 3 out of 5 BIPOC shoppers are unlikely to visit that specific location again.
Uh-huh.
And 2 out of 5 are unlikely to visit any outlet of that store.
Well, what would happen to, I don't know, a non-BIPOC customer who experienced that same thing? Do you think that kind of experience, if you go to a store and you don't feel like the customer service is any good, or the people are paying attention, or they don't know what they're talking about, do you think that might affect, I don't know, people in general, regardless of their race? What does their race have to do with their opinion towards a store that is not serving their needs? I wonder.
Okay. So, this is a calling to the entire retail industry, right? If we can, as an industry, obsess about things like
Race.
page load time.
Sorry, I cut her off there. Obsess about what?
Obsess about things like page load time.
Page load time? What does that have to do with racial inclusion?
And cart abandonment. And
cart abandonment. What? Thank you, John Miller. Lies, damn lies, and statistics whenever I hear there's a study. Well, especially when they talk about there's a study that affirms that DEI is profitable. I can only imagine they're talking about McKinsey. And there's been some recent movement regarding the accuracy and viability of McKinsey studies when it comes to DEI and success, but that might be the subject for another stream.
SEO optimization. We surely have enough time and energy to think about an issue.
You're talking about internet stuff. What does any of that have to do with the skin color of the customer or the employee?
That so deeply affects all of our consumers. It's a lot of hard work. We probably will always be at it. But you should hopefully see, with me at least, my passion and belief that it's possible to strive to make retail a place that is more welcoming and inclusive for everybody.
Oh, wait. You moved from a study that said 3 out of 5 BIPOC customers wouldn't come back to a store if they were mistreated, as though anyone who's not BIPOC wouldn't also not come back to a store where they were mistreated in some way. And then you just simply jump from that to website analytics between shopping. I mean, when you talk about cart abandonment, I'm assuming you mean like someone clicks on products on your thing, but then does not actually buy anything. What does that have to do with someone's skin color? They're not interacting with a human being. They're clicking on a web page. If you were trying to dodge going any deeper into your first example, I guess you couldn't do any better than jumping to a completely unrelated example that's detached from everything else about this interview.
That's such an excellent point, because earlier in the summit, we talked about customer lifetime value, and everyone's thinking about every single touch point and how they can make customer service seamless. But then we kind of miss this element where a certain percent of our customers may not experience that same high touch, amazing customer service. And
because everybody who works at stores are automatically racist? Okay.
It's like just fixing that can have such a tremendous business impact. And
is it amazing?
It's great that you're shedding light on that, because
I was hoping it was going to be amazing.
I think it's so important.
Thank you. I think it's also, defining the customers that we have. Like, are we actually missing customers altogether? Forget about lifetime value, by the way. Are we thinking about the total potential audience of our products and services?
Well, obviously not. You're focused specifically on one race and servicing that racial demographic in ways that you won't explain. So you're not thinking about all of your customers. You're thinking about servicing particular people based on what they look like, both in the store and in your employment practices. So I guess the answer is no.
Let's start there. Are we welcoming them to even, try and participate in our retail establishment? And then finally, of course, yes, absolutely. Are we engaging them, rewarding their loyalty, and giving them a reason to stick with us?
Because of what they look like, or because they're a customer? I mean, what exactly is the differential here? Well, I mean, you've told us what the differential is, but ultimately, I would think you'd want to treat all your customers well, regardless of what they look like. Or am I missing something?
All important reasons for focusing on DEI as a retail business. Wow.
Wow. Wowie, wow, right? Can I get a wowie, wow?
Wow. Wow.
Exactly. Let's see, Shadow Claw. I'm assuming cart abandonment is more of someone leaving carts with stuff in it in the store. Doesn't make sense if it's about online store. It could. I mean, I'm sure that they register where someone's filled up a cart with something, but then not actually checked out. But I suppose it could be either physical or online. But in the context of what she was talking about, she kept mentioning like SEO and websites or page views or whatever it was, or page loading times. So it could go either way, either cart abandonment online or cart abandonment in the store. Attorney Eris Scribe, she's setting up the if-then comparison. If we care about this, then we can surely care about that. Right. And it just kind of, dilutes the entire process, doesn't it? Okay, only a couple minutes left.
Thank you so much for joining us. But more importantly, thank you so much for trailblazing in this important area and really providing an inspiration to our community. It's been such a pleasure to interview you today and get to spend time with you and talk about this effort.
Thanks, Veronica. I'm super passionate about this issue, and I'm glad that I could just share some of our learnings.
And now I'd like to give our sponsors one final thank you.
Okay, our sponsors. Anybody I recognize? Univision, sure. I think that's all that I recognize. Although their platinum sponsors are Content Square, Creolytics, Sheer ID. Okay. Well, there you go. A relatively concise, if not terse, interview with the Chief Marketing Officer of Sephora about their inclusion efforts. And remember, inclusion is key to the entire Bridge organization. That is the measurement by which they justify the services that they will provide companies in improving their inclusion maturity score. And what are the elements of the inclusion maturity score again? Things like, again, the types of employees you have and what they look like, different other metrics. I don't have it right in front of me, unfortunately. I can probably, hold on. Let me read some of these. I've got this in a folder. I've got that image right here. I have to turn it sideways in order to read it correctly. But let me just for the sake of reference, the graph you're looking at now, I'm going to read off from the what'll be your left to right, what all of the elements of the measurement are. Okay, so here we go. Under Motivate Change, Case for Importance of Inclusion on Growth. DEI as criteria in agency partnerships, which I can only imagine is, do the owners of these other agencies have a particular look? Clarity on underrepresented communities to serve. Public DEI targets, percentages. Public report of DEI metrics. DEI as criteria for compensation. Yes. Incentives to promote an inclusive culture. Whatever that means. DEI as criteria in performance evaluations. And then lastly, under the Motivate Change section, two more, leaders work to create a culture of inclusion. We heard about that in this interview. And lastly, leaders value DEI. All right. Next, under establish accountability, leaders accountable for inclusive growth somehow. DEI council. Do you have a DEI council? Dedicated person to manage DEI progress. That would be a chief diversity officer, more likely than not. DEI as part of marketing responsibility. Okay. Content audits to assess inclusion. Sounds like some Sweet Baby Inc. type territory. DEI checkpoints in marketing process. Audits to identify discrimination practices. That's under accountability in an inclusion maturity DEI system. Next, prepare the organization. Incentives for partners to adopt DEI practices, like we won't do business with you if you do not conform to our philosophy, that kind of thing. Invest to include diverse partners. Diverse partners being people of particular colors. DEI training to understand underrepresented communities, because as we know, racial demographics are monoliths. Training to avoid cultural appropriation. Oh, boy. Well, given that America is a melting pot, is cultural appropriation ever avoidable? Implicit bias training to reduce discrimination, except for the discrimination that we approve through the Bridge Inclusion Maturity DEI process. Development opportunities for diverse talent. Yes, let us discriminate on opportunities in our business on the basis of the person's race. That's not all a violation of Title VII. Internal DEI training, sounds fairly basic. Employee groups, I think you mean employee resource groups. Representation in marketing team. Right, so putting people into positions in your company based on their look, okay? Representation in marketing leadership. Yeah, promote people to positions of authority based on their race. Tracking of inclusion challenges. Sorry, this is under measuring progress. Tracking of inclusion challenges. I don't know, maybe the law. Measurement of DEI progress. Would that be by percentile quotas by any chance? Inclusion as KPI. Oh, how does that work? Measure diversity of consumer base. Oh, well, there you go. Measure of state of DEI efforts. Measure of state of DEI efforts, whatever that means. And lastly, inclusion experience as part of a employee engagement surveys. Okay, well, there you go. Those are the elements by which inclusion maturity is measured at Bridge. And presumably, a lot of that has been informed by Sephora's experience and or processes. I'm assuming. I don't know. This is all just conjecture on my part. But there you go. I'll take a minute here for a couple more comments, and then we will wrap things up. Simon Wilkins, anger over page load time making me think of a Downfall Hitler rants parody of Adolf being mad at his internet speed and proceeding to blame it on Fegelein. I have a copy of that movie on DVD. It's a really great movie. That meme is hilarious if applied correctly. It all depends. Ridiculous lunatic. I'm so glad I don't work retail. I can and regularly do tell my customers to go themselves. I'm keeping this family friendly. Somebody told me they appreciate my attempts to keep this family friendly. I don't remember who that was, but either way, I will continue to assume. Continue to strive towards that. And there's a Satsu 2 cents. Well, if there's a Satsu 2 cents, then I have to play this, unfortunately, slightly outdated video. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oshi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of seasoned flour mixes. Chef Tyrone's seasoned blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might want to use them on. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you the fantastic flavors that you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, and lemon garlic herb. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money by ordering a variety bundle all through the online store. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Yeah, I know you just want to say hi. I know, but I got to harass you somehow. This is how I tell you I love you. What better way to say I love you than with an ad? Satsu, for my edification and everyone else's, what are the additional flavors now that you have available? So I can make sure I can append that ad with some updated information. I will have to re-record that at some point. Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Dear Alexander, I am glad I work in the basement. I hate humanity. In the basement, you say. All right. Well, before I get to anything Satsu might say in updating me, this is part 3 of my bridge series. I'm going to be looking for more examples or information on bridge and or the individuals involved in the executive committee as the days and weeks go on. This is all being added to a playlist on my channel. So if you missed any previous entries and are curious about bridge or the people behind it, check that out on my channel. And let's see. Here we go. So Satsu 2 Cents tells us we got original spicy barbecue rub, taco seasoning, and lemon garlic herb. Okay, so there you go, guys. If you're curious or if you like cooking with spiced flour mixes, just check out Oshi Fried Chicken and help out Satsu with his business because it's good stuff. And I'll have to get an updated script at some point and re-record an ad for Satsu. Let's see. Anything else? I think that's about it. Oh, sorry. No flour. Just spices. Okay. So Satsu is effectively his own Arrakis, and he is providing you the spice. The spice is the universe, and the universe is the spice, everyone. And it comes from Satsu 2 Cents. So check that out. With that, everyone, I'm going to wrap it up here. If I missed anybody's comments or anything, please, by all means, leave a comment below after the video has posted and rendered and all that good stuff. Leave a like on the way out if you would. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Also, if you'd like to join the Discord server and you're not already a member of the Discord server, well, I have a link for you that'll go in the chat right now. It's good for 1 day. So if you'd like to join the Discord server, all you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot and have earned the right, the title, the privilege, the entitlement, that's what I meant, to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is imperative, because my psychic powers didn't really work there. Or amazing. You can say imperative or amazing. Just say hello imperative or hello amazing, and I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, you can find me here Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about a thing, which I usually decide on Saturday, because I don't think that far ahead most times. So look for that. And maybe, possibly, sort of, kind of, Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I may, if things line up, unlike they did last week, they didn't, I'll be on the Midnight's Edge After Dark channel for the shit list, where we talk about a top 5 list of movies and or TV shows and or comic books or whatever the fancy strikes us or has been predetermined by Tom Connors. But with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you got, I'm losing my train of thought. After doing that ad for Satsu, everything goes sideways. Everyone, moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or please take a look at the link at the top of the chat box to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society on behalf of Irate Alex's brother, who has just recently passed away. Please donate to that if you can. If you can't, please share that out on social media, and I appreciate it ahead of time. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Friday. I hope you have a good weekend ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.